Two gods, one goddess, a choice that could destroy everything. Oshun, the goddess of love, finds herself torn between Shango, the fiery god of thunder, and Iku, the tranquil moon god. What starts as an all-consuming passion spirals into a storm of betrayal and dark secrets. Shango's fury could tear the world apart, while Iku's peace may come with a price too steep to pay. Oshun must choose. Will she embrace the fire that once burned her, or seek the peace that could change everything? Her decision will determine the fate of all. So, sit back, because this is Africa Unveiled. Before we dive in, I know many of you are watching from around the world, united by a love for Africa. Drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'll be in the comments engaging with you. And if you're enjoying the content, a like and subscription would truly mean the world to me. All right, let's get back to the video. In the world of the Orishas, the elements are not just forces of nature. They are living, breathing entities, each with their own desires and power. They coexist in harmony, yet they are always on the edge of conflict. The sky and the earth, the sea and the land, fire and water. The Orishas represent these elements, and they govern the forces of the universe. But sometimes, the clash of elements creates something extraordinary. And so it was, on a fateful day, that Oshun, the radiant goddess of love, beauty, and the river, first met Shango, the thunderous god of storms and fire. It was a meeting like no other. Oshun stood by the river, her golden skin glistening in the sunlight, her black braids cascading down her back like an endless river, adorned with gold beads and river shells that shimmered with each movement. Her dress, golden and amber, flowed like liquid sunlight, rippling with the gentle breeze. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, her very presence drawing everything in nature to her. She was love itself, the goddess who ruled over the heart's deepest desires, and the river that nourished the earth. But then, the sky darkened. Shango appeared, his massive frame filling the horizon, his eyes aflame with the intensity of a storm. His chest was bare, his body marked with symbols of power. His hair, wild like the storm winds, crackled with static, and his voice, when he spoke, rumbled like thunder. He was the embodiment of fire, of passion, of the unrelenting power of nature. Their first meeting was like a spark meeting water. Oshun, with her grace and beauty, stood still as the winds whipped around her. She felt the surge of Shango's presence before she even saw him. The ground trembled under his footsteps, and the air felt heavy, charged with the energy of the thunder god. Shango's eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, time itself seemed to stop. His gaze was intense, like a bolt of lightning, and Oshun felt it pierce straight into her heart. There was no denying the pull between them, a force of nature that neither could control. Who dares to walk so gracefully on my earth? Shango's voice thundered, yet beneath his power, there was a hint of curiosity. Oshun smiled, her voice soft but powerful, like the river's flow. I walk where the water leads, mighty Shango, and the water leads me to you. The words hung in the air, and Shango felt something stir within him, a flicker of something he had never experienced before. This was not the hunger for conquest or dominance that had always defined him. No, this was something deeper, something more vulnerable. Oshun, sensing the fire within him, smiled again, her golden aura shimmering. You are fire, Shango, but I am the river. Can you tame the storm within? Shango laughed, the sound like distant thunder. I do not tame storms, Oshun. I am the storm. But for you, I would make the thunder sing." Their connection was immediate, undeniable, and as they stood facing one another, the winds calmed, the river seemed to ripple with anticipation, and the world around them held its breath. The heat of Shango's fiery presence began to warm Oshun's cool, serene heart, and the spark between them grew into an inferno. But with passion comes danger. In the skies above, the other gods were watching. They saw the union between Oshun, the goddess of love, and Shango, the god of thunder, as a force that could not be left unchecked. Such an alliance between fire and water, between two such powerful beings, could either bring balance to the world or shatter it entirely. Jealousy, too, stirred among the gods. They saw the beauty and strength that Oshun possessed, and they knew that Shango, with his intensity and power, could never truly possess her. They feared the storm she could ignite in his heart. But that, as it always does, would come later. For now, Shango and Oshun's love burned bright, their fiery passion colliding like two worlds coming together. They were bound by something much greater than themselves, a force that neither understood nor could control. And as the river flowed and the thunder roared, it was clear that this was only the beginning. As the days passed, the bond between Oshun and Shango grew stronger, their love a blazing fire and a flowing river in perfect yet fragile harmony. In the beginning, their connection was a symphony of passion, with Shango's thunderous energy fueling Oshun's gentle, nurturing grace. Every meeting between them was like the coming together of two elements, each bringing its own vitality to the other. But soon, as the days turned into weeks, a shadow began to form, darker and more persistent than the storms Shango could summon. Oshun had always been a goddess of balance, her river a constant flowing force that brought life and renewal. But now, she felt a change in the waters. The flow was no longer serene. There were moments when Shango's presence, once a source of fiery devotion, became overwhelming. His storms raged with intensity, not just in the sky, but within himself. And this fury was no longer something she could calm with a gentle word or a soft touch. It started with the smallest tremors, the way Shango would snap at the wind when a breeze shifted too suddenly, or the fire that seemed to flare in his eyes whenever another god spoke to her too warmly. Oshun would smile, laugh it off, but with each passing day, she could feel the storm brewing inside him. It was no longer just the thunder that boomed in the skies. It was the tremors of jealousy, deep in Shango's heart. His love for her, once so vibrant and wild, began to feel like a tempest. It was no longer a beautiful storm. It was a destructive one. Every time she looked at him, the heavens would darken, and the earth would tremble with his fury. It was not just the power of thunder that threatened to break her heart, but the intensity of his passion, which was now tainted by jealousy. Shango's pride was immense, and as Oshun began to receive more attention from the other gods, her beauty, her grace, her wisdom, he could not stand to see her admired by others. The very thing that had first drawn him to her, the attention she commanded, the light she radiated, was now a cause for his jealousy. His love for her twisted into a need to possess, to own her, to ensure that no other god could lay claim to the goddess of the river. Oshun, ever perceptive, felt the change in Shango. She knew he loved her, but now there was something darker in his love, something dangerous. The thunderstorms he summoned were no longer just a reflection of his power, but of his growing instability. His jealousy was not subtle. It was in every storm that ripped through the sky, in every crack of thunder that seemed to shake the very earth beneath their feet. One night, as a storm raged outside, Shango's fury reached its peak. He had heard whispers that one of the other gods had spoken to Oshun with admiration. The storm he summoned was so violent that the very ground beneath them seemed to split, lightning flashing across the sky in angry, jagged streaks. Oshun! Shango's voice was thunder itself, shaking the heavens. Do you see what you have done? You have allowed others to look upon you as if you were theirs to claim. Oshun, standing in the center of his storm, felt the winds whip around her. Her golden gown fluttered violently, and the once peaceful river that flowed within her seemed to pulse with an uncertain current. Shango, she said softly, but there was a weight in her voice, a sorrow. I have done nothing but exist, my love. You are the one who has allowed your heart to be torn by jealousy. The thunder rumbled again, but this time it was different. It wasn't a declaration of power. It was a cry of pain, of insecurity. Oshun's heart ached for him, but at the same time she realized she could no longer ignore the rising tide of fear within her. The love that had once felt so right, so natural, was now suffocating her. I do not want this storm, Shango, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. I do not want this chaos that you have brought into my heart. But Shango was too far gone. His eyes were wide with frustration and fear, his body trembling with the intensity of his emotions. His once fierce love for Oshun now felt like a storm that could not be calmed. I would burn the heavens down for you, he roared, his fists clenched in rage. I would lay waste to the world for your love. Oshun's heart sank as she stepped back, her once constant flow of peace beginning to churn with an unsettling force. And in doing so, you would destroy me. For the first time, Shango faltered. His hands fell to his sides, and his once commanding presence seemed to waver. He had not meant to hurt her, but his unchecked emotions were taking over. He had lost sight of the love that had once brought them together, and now, all that remained was the storm. Oshun, the goddess who had always been the embodiment of love and balance, found herself torn. Could she still love him through this storm? Or was it time for her to break free, to find peace, to reclaim the river that flowed within her heart? That night, as Shango retreated into his own storm, a dark thought settled in Oshun's mind. She could not stay in this tempest forever. She had once been the calm within the storm, but now the storm had become her prison. She needed to find a way to save their love, or she needed to let it go before it consumed her entirely. And so, she turned inward, searching for an answer. The gods had once taught her the power of rituals, of sacred acts that could restore balance. Perhaps a ritual could quell Shango's rage, could cool the flames of jealousy that burned in his heart. But little did she know, this ritual would only lead her deeper into the heart of the storm. As the days grew longer, the storm that raged within Shango intensified, threatening to consume everything in its path. Oshun, torn between love and fear, sought solace where she could. It was in these quiet moments of solitude, away from the tumult of Shango's wrath, that she found something unexpected, a new presence. It was not thunder, nor fire, nor the familiar rhythm of the river. No, this presence was soft, subtle, and serene. It came from the heavens above. Iku, the mysterious moon god, watched her from the shadows, his eyes like pale silvery orbs that glowed with quiet understanding. He was a god of silence, of night, of secrets held in the calm of the moonlight. Unlike Shango, whose heart was an inferno, Iku was the cool, tranquil balm that soothed the soul. His love was not loud or overwhelming. It was quiet, gentle, a soft whisper in the darkness. Oshun first noticed him one evening as she wandered by the river, seeking peace after yet another storm from Shango. The air was thick with tension, the ground still wet from the rain, and the scent of earth and water filled her lungs. It was here, in this quiet moment, that she saw the moonlight filtering through the trees, casting an ethereal glow on the water's surface. But it was not just the moonlight that caught her attention. It was Iku. He stood at the edge of the river, his form shrouded in mist, his silver eyes watching her with a calmness that contrasted sharply with Shango's fiery presence. There was something captivating about him, something gentle, yet profound. Oshun stepped closer, drawn to him without fully understanding why. She had never known Iku to approach her before. The moon god was a silent observer of the world, not one to intervene in the affairs of others. But tonight, something was different. "I did not expect to find you here," Oshun said softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. Iku's voice was calm, as always, but there was a depth to it that resonated with her. "The moon watches over all things, Oshun, even the storm." Oshun sighed, her heart heavy with the weight of Shango's tempestuous love. "The storm never seems to end. Fire cannot calm fire," Iku said, "but water can, if only you let it." Oshun's gaze shifted to the river, the water flowing endlessly, calm and unwavering. She had always been a goddess of the river, of love and beauty. But now, she wondered if she had lost her way in the chaos of Shango's storm. The peace that Iku offered seemed like the refuge she had been yearning for. "I do not know if I can stay in the storm any longer," she confessed. "I am torn between the fire that burns so fiercely within Shango and the calm that calls to me in the moonlight. I do not know which way to turn." Iku's gaze softened, and he took a step closer to her. "There is no shame in choosing peace, Oshun. Love is not always about intensity. Sometimes it is about the quiet moments, the stillness between breaths." Oshun felt a flutter in her heart as Iku spoke. There was something undeniable in his words, a peace she had not felt in so long. Her soul, tired from the endless storms, began to respond to the calm that Iku embodied. But still she hesitated. "I have loved Shango with all my heart. His fire is the fire that ignites my soul," she said, a trace of sorrow in her voice. "But this fire is no longer the same. It is burning me alive." Iku moved even closer, his presence a soothing balm on her agitated heart. Fire can burn, but it can also consume everything in its path, leaving nothing but ashes. You must decide whether to stay in the fire or walk away and find the peace you seek. The choice is yours, Oshun. You are not bound by the storms of others. You are the river. You can flow in any direction. Oshun looked into Iku's eyes, and for the first time in ages, she felt a sense of clarity. The river within her had always been a guide. Her true essence had always been peace, love, and the ability to nurture life. Yet, in the chaos of Shango's passion, she had forgotten that the river could flow freely, that she could choose her own path. But the thought of leaving Shango, of turning away from the love that had once consumed her, caused a deep ache in her chest. She was torn between two powerful forces, the fire of Shango and the peace of Iku. One promised endless passion, the other, tranquil serenity. Each path seemed to offer something she needed, yet each came with its own sacrifice. "I cannot deny that your love offers peace, Iku," Oshun said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But Shango, his love burns within me. How can I turn away from it?" Iku did not respond immediately. Instead, he reached out, gently brushing her hand with his own. his touch as light as moonbeams. Sometimes, the greatest love is the one that allows us to be free. Oshun. Love that does not demand, but instead gives. Love that heals, not burns. Oshun closed her eyes, the weight of his words settling on her heart like a soft rain. She had been so focused on the intensity of her love for Shango that she had forgotten what it meant to simply be loved, to feel safe and peaceful in the arms of another. Iku's love, though quiet, offered something she had long been searching for. But the storm was not yet over. The winds howled, and in the distance, she could feel the rumble of Shango's thunder once more. She knew he would not give up easily. The god of thunder never let go without a fight. And so, Oshun stood between two gods, each offering something she deeply desired. But as the moonlight bathed her in its soft glow, she knew that the time had come to make a choice, one that would alter the course of her heart forever. The days following that fateful encounter with Iku were filled with turmoil. Oshun's heart, once fluid and serene like the river, now felt as though it were caught in a violent current. She was torn between two gods, each representing a different path. Shango, whose fiery passion had once consumed her, and Iku, whose moonlit calm promised peace and clarity. The tension between the two forces was undeniable, and the weight of her indecision grew heavier with each passing day. Shango, ever the tempestuous god of thunder, could feel the shift in Oshun's heart. His once steadfast confidence began to waver as he sensed her growing distance. In the face of his jealousy, Shango decided to confront the situation directly. Driven by a need to prove his worth, he summoned a challenge, a series of trials to demonstrate his power, his strength, and his unwavering devotion to Oshun. He believed that if he could pass these trials, he could win back her heart, dispel the doubts that now clouded her love, and reignite the passion between them. Oshun, however, was not certain. She had seen Shango's fiery love at its peak, and it had nearly consumed her. She had felt the pain of his jealousy, the destruction it wrought, and the chaos that followed in its wake. Could she truly return to the inferno, knowing it might burn everything in its path again? Yet, despite her doubts, she could not ignore the part of her that still loved him. She had once believed in the power of his love, the way it had swept her off her feet, like a storm crashing against the shore. The thought of abandoning that passion completely unsettled her. But then, Iku's soft whispers came to her mind, reminding her of the peace she had found in his quiet presence. There was a part of her that yearned for that serenity, that calm. Yet even in Iku's gentle embrace, she knew she would always wonder if she had abandoned something essential to her nature: the fire, the spark, the intensity. Shango, ever proud and unyielding, approached her one evening as she stood by the river, gazing at the moonlit water. The thunder god's presence crackled through the air, his powerful figure blocking the horizon as he stepped forward. His eyes, once filled with fiery passion, were now clouded with uncertainty. "Oshun," he began, his voice deep and rumbling like the storm he commanded. "I will prove my worth to you. I will face whatever trials are necessary to show you that my love for you is real. No storm can extinguish it. I will bend the very heavens to bring you back to me." Oshun turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mixture of love and sorrow. "Shango, your love is powerful, but it is not enough to silence the storm inside me. It is not enough to calm the fire that threatens to burn me alive." Shango stepped closer, his powerful form towering over her. "Then I will face whatever trials the gods lay before me. I will fight for you, Oshun. for the love we once shared. Without waiting for her response, Shango summoned the first of the trials. It was a test of strength, a battle with the fiercest storms, a display of his raw power to control the winds and the thunder. The sky darkened, and thunder rumbled as Shango raised his arms to summon the fury of the heavens. Bolts of lightning cracked across the sky, lighting up the world with their intensity. Oshun watched from a distance, her heart heavy with doubt. She had seen Shango's strength before, and she knew how easily it could spiral out of control. But as the storm raged, she couldn't deny the pull of the power he wielded. His presence was commanding, and his passion was undeniable. Yet she knew that strength alone would not bring peace to her heart. The trial raged on, with Shango summoning violent winds and lightning strikes that shook the very earth beneath them. His power was unmatched, his fury a force of nature. The storm he created seemed to stretch to the edges of the world, but with every flash of lightning, Oshun felt a growing sense of unease. This was not the love she had once known. This was a destructive force, one that could tear them apart. When the storm finally subsided, Shango stood victorious, his body drenched in sweat, and his eyes wild with the fire of his triumph. "See, Oshun, I have proven my worth. No force can stand against me. I will make the heavens bow for you." But Oshun, her heart torn, did not cheer his victory. She could feel the destruction left in the wake of his storm, the land scorched, the trees uprooted, and the river churning with rage. Her essence, once calm and serene, now felt unsettled. The love she once shared with Shango was powerful, yes, but it was no longer the same. It had become something dangerous, something that threatened to unravel everything she was. "I cannot return to this, Shango," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of her decision. "I cannot live in a world where storms rage every time love is tested. Your power is not the answer. It is not the love I need." Shango's face contorted with frustration. "Then what do you want, Oshun? What will it take to prove my love to you?" Before she could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. The thunder god's trials were not yet finished. Iku, the moon god, emerged from the shadows, his presence calming the air as he stepped forward. Unlike Shango, he did not command the storm. He simply was. His light bathed the scene in a soft, ethereal glow, and his calm presence stood in stark contrast to Shango's fiery rage. "I do not need trials to prove my love." Iku's voice was like a whisper, yet it carried through the stillness. "Love does not demand. It does not fight. It simply is." Oshun's heart, torn between two gods, finally understood. The trials Shango had faced, though mighty, had only led to more destruction. His love, though fierce, had become a storm that ravaged her soul, and Iku's love, though quiet, had been a balm for her wounded heart. It was peace, the tranquility she had longed for. Shango, his chest heaving from the intensity of the storm, turned to face Iku, his anger reigniting. "You dare to speak of love as if it were a mere whisper in the wind? I will not allow you to take her from me." Iku, calm as always, did not flinch. "I do not seek to take, only to offer." Oshun stood between them, her heart heavy. She could feel the weight of the choice she had to make, the pull between the storm and the moonlight. But the storm, for all its intensity, could no longer drown out the quiet voice within her. The river had its own current, its own direction, and she could no longer ignore it. The air hung thick with tension. The sky, once heavy, with the intensity of Shango's storm, now felt eerily silent. Oshun stood between two gods, one who had burned with the fires of love, and the other who offered the quiet serenity of the moon. Her heart, torn in two, could no longer withstand the weight of indecision. The time for choices had come, but before Oshun could fully confront her feelings, a truth came crashing down upon her. A truth she had long buried, unable to face, and it shattered the fragile peace she had begun to build. It came to her like a flash of lightning in the darkness, as devastating as the storm Shango had once summoned. While she had been lost in the chaos of her heart, Shango had kept a secret, one that had been hidden from her for far too long. Oshun, ever perceptive, had begun to notice subtle signs, things that seemed out of place. Shango's increasing jealousy, his need for control, and the fire that seemed to consume him were no longer just reactions to her affections. They were the result of something darker. And it was in a quiet moment, when Shango's guard was down, that she overheard a conversation that would unravel everything. It was Baba Orun, the wise elder and advisor to the gods, who revealed the truth. Oshun had always trusted Baba Orun's counsel, for his wisdom was unmatched. Yet, this revelation came with a bitter sting. Oshun. Baba Orun's voice was heavy with sorrow. Shango has not been honest with you. His heart may burn with passion, but it is not for you alone. Her breath caught in her chest, a cold wave crashing over her like the floodwaters of a river, in full force. "What do you mean?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. The pieces were falling into place. "Shango." Baba Orun paused, as if struggling to find the right words. "Shango has been with another. He has been courting a goddess from the distant lands. Her beauty, like yours, drew him, but it was not love that pulled him toward her. It was ambition. He sought to claim power through her, a power that would have made him the supreme god of the heavens." Oshun's heart trembled, the waters of her soul churning violently. She felt as though the ground beneath her was being swept away by a flood. The betrayal was not just personal. It was a betrayal of everything she had believed in. Her love for Shango had been built on a foundation of trust, but now that trust lay in ruins. "Why?" Oshun whispered, the river of her heart swelling with fury. "Why did he not tell me?" Baba Orun's eyes were filled with regret. "Because he feared losing you. He wanted both, the power of the heavens and the love of the goddess of the river. He thought he could control both." A torrent of emotions surged within Oshun: anger, heartbreak, and a deep sense of betrayal. The god she had loved, the god who had once swept her away with his passionate storms, had betrayed her. The truth was more devastating than the storm itself, and it set off a chain of events that could no longer be undone. Oshun's body trembled with rage. She had long been the goddess of love and beauty, revered for her grace. But in this moment, she was the river, a force of nature that could not be tamed. The fury within her began to grow, the very waters of her being swelling with unbridled wrath. Without another word, Oshun turned to the river, the source of her power. She knelt beside it, her fingers grazing the water's surface as her thoughts began to boil. The river, once a symbol of life and peace, now mirrored the chaos within her heart. And in that moment, she felt a power awakening within her, one that had always been there, but was now unleashed. Her eyes glowed with a fierce golden light as she called upon the river's wrath. She could feel the river responding to her call, its waters rising in response to her anger, her pain. The calm, peaceful flow of her essence transformed into a surge of energy, a violent wave of force that threatened to swallow everything in its path. As the river began to rise, so did her fury. She stood tall, her golden aura now shimmering with the intensity of a goddess who had been betrayed. The once serene goddess of love had become a force of vengeance, and the floodwaters swirled around her, crashing like a storm that could no longer be contained. Shango, Oshun's voice thundered, her words carrying the weight of her wrath. You have broken my heart, and now you will face the fury of the river. The love you sought to possess has turned to ruin. The waters that once nourished will now consume. In an instant, the river surged forward, flooding the land. It was not the gentle, nurturing current of the river goddess that flowed, but a violent, uncontrolled torrent. The waters roared with the power of her wrath, sweeping away everything in its path. Mountains, forests, villages, nothing was spared. Shango, hearing the crash of the floodwaters, turned to face the source of the destruction. His heart sank as he realized the full extent of the storm he had ignited. The love he had once known with Oshun was now drowned beneath the weight of her fury. His betrayal had cost him more than he had ever imagined. Oshun's rage was a reflection of the river itself, unpredictable, wild, and powerful. But as she watched the devastation unfold, something in her began to shift. The anger that had fueled the floodwaters began to subside, and in its place, a deep, sorrowful emptiness took root. The river's wrath had not healed her heart. It had only torn her apart further. She stood at the edge of the flooded land, the golden glow of her aura dimming as the destruction she had wrought settled into her soul. The love she had once shared with Shango was now gone, lost in the flood. And with it, she had to confront the ultimate question. Was vengeance worth the cost? Could she find peace in the aftermath? Or had the storm inside her destroyed everything she once held dear? The floodwaters receded, leaving a land scarred by the destruction of Oshun's wrath. The river, once her companion in peace, now stood as a testament to the storm she had unleashed. The earth, muddied and drenched, was silent beneath her feet. The world around her, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed devoid of color, washed out by the flood of emotions that had swept through it. Oshun stood at the edge of the river, her golden aura now dimmed, the once radiant glow now a flickering ember. She had unleashed her fury, the fury of a goddess betrayed, and in return, the storm had taken from her as much as it had destroyed. She had once been the goddess of love, the embodiment of beauty and balance. But now, she felt as though she had lost both herself and the love she had once shared with Shango. She had made her choice, had given in to the rage that had consumed her heart. But now that the storm had passed, a silence fell over her soul. The echoes of Shango's anger, his desperation, his words, "We were never meant to be anything but fire and water, crashing together only to destroy each other," still rang in her ears. As the river's current slowed, Oshun felt the pull of another presence, one that was as serene and steady as the calm after a storm. It was Iku, the moon god, whose love had never demanded anything but peace. His light, soft and unwavering, bathed the world in its quiet glow, offering a contrast to the chaos that had unfolded. Where Shango's fire had burned her, Iku's moonlight now beckoned, offering a chance for healing, a chance for balance. Oshun lifted her head, her eyes meeting Iku's calm gaze. There was no storm in his eyes, no jealousy or bitterness. There was only peace, an unwavering serenity that contrasted with the tempest that had raged in her soul. His presence was like the gentle ebb of the tide, a soothing balm to the scars left by the flood. "I have seen the world burn, Iku," Oshun said, her voice soft but heavy with the weight of her journey. I have seen the fury of fire consume everything in its path, and now I have seen the river, my river, flood the earth in revenge. But neither of these have healed me. Neither of these have brought me the peace I once knew. Iku stepped closer, his moonlit form reflecting in the river's surface. His voice, quiet and gentle, seemed to echo through the stillness. Peace is not something that can be found in others, Oshun. It is something that must be found within. You are the river. You are love. And love is not about possession. It is about understanding, letting go, and finding balance. Oshun closed her eyes, her heart heavy with the truth of his words. She had spent so long consumed by the intensity of her love for Shango, by the storms of jealousy and betrayal, that she had forgotten what it meant to simply be loved, to simply exist in peace. She had longed for the fire of passion, but in that fire, she had lost herself. Now, in Iku's presence, she felt a peace that she had not known for eons. His love was not loud or demanding. It was steady, like the moon that rose each night, shining in quiet brilliance. It was the love of the silent watch, the love of a God who understood that sometimes the greatest strength was in the stillness. But even in Iku's calm embrace, Oshun could not escape the pull of her past. The fire of Shango, though now distant, still burned within her. The love she had once shared with him was not easily forgotten. It had been fierce, intense, and it had marked her soul. Could she truly walk away from that? Could she choose peace over the storm that had once defined her? I have always been the river, Oshun murmured, her voice filled with a deep sorrow. I have always been the goddess of love, but love too is a force of nature, fierce, unrelenting. How can I turn away from that fire? Iku's gaze softened as he stepped closer, his presence as gentle as moonlight. Fire can burn, Oshun, but it can also destroy. It can consume everything. I do not ask you to forget the love you once shared with Shango. I ask you to remember that love does not always mean staying. Sometimes, love means knowing when to let go. The words cut through the storm that still raged within her. Oshun closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the choice before her. She had given so much of herself to Shango, to the fire of his passion, and yet, in the end, it had only left her broken and burned. She had given so much, but in return, she had lost herself, her peace, and the love she had once known. She could not return to the storm. Shango, Oshun whispered, her voice trembling as she spoke his name. I loved him. I thought we were meant to be one, to be both fire and water. But fire cannot contain water, and water cannot be consumed by fire. Iku's hand reached out, gently cupping her chin, lifting her gaze to meet his. You do not need to be both, Oshun. You are the river. You are the love that flows, that heals, that nourishes. But you must choose the path that brings you peace. Love cannot thrive in chaos. It can only bloom in balance. Oshun's heart, once torn between fire and water, now felt a sense of calm. The choice was clear. Her love for Shango had been intense, but it had burned her. It had drowned her in the flood of his jealousy, his ambition, and his rage. But Iku's love was steady, peaceful. It did not demand. It did not burn. It simply was. She stepped forward, leaving the churning waters behind. With each step, the weight of the storm within her lightened. As she walked towards Iku, her golden aura slowly returned, now softer, calmer, like the gentle light of the moon. I choose peace, Oshun said, her voice steady and filled with resolve. I choose love that heals, love that flows, love that brings balance. I choose you, Iku. Iku's eyes, soft and serene, met hers as he enveloped her in a gentle embrace. The moonlight shimmered around them, casting a silvery glow upon the land that had been ravaged by the storms of the past. The earth, though scarred, now began to heal, as the river of Oshun's soul found its true course once more. And in the silence that followed, a new understanding was born. Love, Oshun realized, was not always about the intensity of passion. It was about the peace that came from within. And in that peace, she found herself once again. This myth, deeply rooted in Yoruba culture, serves as a profound reflection of the values and teachings that have shaped the spiritual and emotional landscape of the African diaspora for centuries. At its core, the story of Oshun's forbidden love speaks to the vital principle of balance in life, a principle that is central not only to Yoruba mythology, but to African philosophy as a whole. It teaches us that love is not simply about passion or possession, but about self-realization, understanding one's own needs, limits, and the essence of peace. Oshun's tumultuous journey with Shango and Iku mirrors the complexity of human emotions, where jealousy, passion, and peace are not opposing forces, but interconnected parts of the human experience. The myth underscores how these forces must be understood, respected, and navigated carefully to avoid imbalance. Oshun's choice, to leave behind the fire of Shango for the calm of Iku, reflects the difficult decisions many of us must face in our own lives. The sacrifices we make, the relationships we must let go of, and the search for inner harmony. Ultimately, this myth teaches us the importance of making decisions that honor both ourselves and the world around us. It is a reminder that sometimes, in order to preserve harmony, whether in love, work, or personal growth, we must let go of that which we hold most dear, even if it causes us pain. Oshun's story is a powerful metaphor for the inner strength required to confront the chaos within, and the wisdom needed to choose a path that aligns with our true essence. It calls on us to embrace peace, not as a passive force, but as a conscious choice in our quest for balance in life. Did you enjoy the story of Oshun's forbidden love between Shango and Iku? Which African mythology would you like me to explore next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's dive deeper into these powerful, timeless stories together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more captivating tales from African mythology that inspire, teach, and ignite the imagination.